Some characters are conceptualized, written, and designed to be inherently likable. Whether it's due to their captivating personalities, impressive power, stylish appearances, or often a combination of all of those traits, these characters tend to resonate with audiences and cultivate considerable fan bases. Sasuke Uchiha, one of the most prominent characters in Naruto, is a prime example of a character seemingly created to be universally appealing. From the very beginning, he's portrayed as more powerful and capable than most shinobi his age. He wields one of the coolest ocular abilities in the anime, is adored by many of the female characters, and carries an edgy, serious demeanor. While the personality can be divisive, it contrasts sharply with the silliness of characters like Kakashi and Naruto, creating a dynamic balance. Yet, despite meeting all the criteria for a fan favorite, Sasuke's character arc takes a surprising turn. As the story unfolds, he transforms into one of the most hated characters in the series. How did this happen? How could a character with such potential become so widely disliked? To understand the main issues the audience perceives with Sasuke's character, we need to examine the most defining trait of his development throughout the story: his resentment. This isn't merely a critique of his poor decision-making. Sasuke's resentment is deeply rooted in a tragedy that is both real and relatable. He lost his entire family at the hands of his own brother, the person he loved the most. This wasn't just the ultimate betrayal, but a devastating psychological wound inflicted during his childhood. The horror of such event became a defining aspect of who he was. How many of us under similar circumstances could avoid being consumed by the madness and despair born from such trauma? However, even in the face of unimaginable suffering, there remains an undeniable degree of personal responsibility and accountability for our actions. This is where Sasuke's character draws sharp criticism, especially when contrasted with Naruto, whose life was arguably as difficult as Sasuke's. Naruto was rejected by everyone in his village. From the moment he was born, his existence was questioned, and he was ostracized by those around him. He grew up without parents and bore the stigma of being the vessel for the Nine Tails, the very entity responsible for the greatest tragedy in Konoha's history. Naruto had every reason to succumb to hatred and bitterness, but he chose a different path, one of hope, perseverance, and love. He resolved to prove that he was more than a seal for the Kyuubi. He aspired to become the strongest shinobi in Konoha, and ultimately, its Hokage. In Naruto's journey, his love was always greater than his hate. Sasuke, on the other hand, allowed himself to be consumed entirely by his hatred for his brother. His sole motivation became vengeance, and he disregarded any moral considerations in the process. Both Sasuke and Naruto faced immense suffering, and both had the potential to follow similar paths. However, attributing their divergence to anything other than personal responsibility diminishes the significance of Naruto's struggles and choices. When compared to Naruto, Sasuke's unrelenting spite and refusal to rise above his circumstances make him a much more dislikable character. Even so, it's fair to say that Sasuke's trajectory remains mostly consistent up until his much anticipated fight with Itachi. This confrontation between the brothers represents the culmination of all his ambitions. A showdown with the man who not only destroyed his family and clan, but also shattered his cherished memories of a loving sibling. Sasuke's development up to this point follows a relatively predictable path, dealing with Orochimaru, assembling a team of allies, and relentlessly hunting for information about the Akatsuki. Each step, like his epic battle with Deidara, served as a smaller piece of his larger revenge arc. His focus never wavered, and his worldview and personality remained largely unchanged. However, the fight with Itachi wasn't just intense and epic, it set the stage for one of the greatest plot twists in the anime. It revealed that Itachi Uchiha was not the villain Sasuke believed him to be, but a tragic hero. He sacrificed his reputation and the life of his clan to prevent a civil war in Konoha and to protect his little brother. Far from being a monster, Itachi was one of the greatest men in the history of the Hidden Leaf. And this is where several of the most annoying problems with Sasuke's development as a character begin. After the fight, Toby reveals the truth, or part of it, about Itachi's actions, attempting to manipulate Sasuke. Because of course he is. In response, Sasuke becomes one of the most erratic and irrational characters in the series, blinded to all reason. A bad reaction was expected given the emotional impact of the revelation, but considering his life experience, dealing with betrayal from his brother as a child and being trained by someone as cunning as Orochimaru, you would think he would probably approach Toby's claims with some caution. Instead, he blindly trusts the man, presenting himself as the factually deceased Madara Uchiha. Sasuke's ambitions shift from killing his traitorous brother to avenging Itachi's memory by destroying Konoha entirely. While his newfound goal might seem pragmatic in theory, his execution of it exposes the sheer stupidity of his decisions. He immediately aligns himself with Toby and launches himself into unnecessarily dangerous conflicts. He attempts to capture Killer Bee, the Jinchuriki of the Eight Tails, for the Akatsuki, invades the Kage summit to pursue Danzo and fights the Raikage in the process, kills Danzo, and even clashes with Team 7, all while recklessly exhausting his eyes by overusing his Susanoo to the brink of blindness. The man was a walking disaster. Ironically, the only redeeming aspect of this sequence of events was that Sasuke's development appeared to have a clear direction. He was becoming a true villain, spiraling completely out of control and abandoning any sense of morality. His willingness to sacrifice Karin, one of his companions, marked just how far he had fallen. But let's be honest, this portion of the story is one of the weakest for every character involved. Sasuke embracing his role as a villain was not the issue. It was the absurd actions of Team 7 that made the situation unbearable. Sakura literally simps over Sasuke and hesitates in the most idiotic way possible, even though he just tried to kill her. Naruto delivers yet another cringeworthy talk no jutsu speech. He has an exaggerated affection for a literal war criminal who just killed the Hokage. He comes across as laughably irrational. Kakashi, the supposed adult in the room, tries to intervene but ultimately fails, while Sasuke mocks every attempt to reason with him. The entire sequence was a disaster. I lost a little bit of respect for everyone in that scene, except Sakura, because to be fair, I never respected her to begin with. The only positive takeaway from this entire mess is that Sasuke finally has a clear villain trajectory. He can now develop into a definitive enemy, becoming to Naruto what Madara was to Hashirama, a reflection of their ideological clash. Right? Right? No. Not really. With the start of the 4th Shinobi World War, Sasuke gets a chance to speak with his brother, who is resurrected by the Edo Tensei. This encounter reveals the full truth behind Itachi's decision to annihilate their clan. Sasuke begins questioning once again the path he's taken. While I appreciate the philosophical nature of his internal struggle, pondering what it means to be a shinobi, to belong to a clan, or to serve a village, the reality is that any potential transformation inspired by Itachi was undermined by the natural consequences of Sasuke's actions up to this point. Even if Sasuke were to experience a complete change of heart, the first step would have to be acknowledging his crimes and taking accountability for the chaos he caused. But of course, that's not what happens. Instead, his search for answers leads him to meet the first 4 Hokage, and after listening to their stories, Sasuke says this. No. For me personally, it's impossible to take this development seriously. His complete lack of self-awareness, his inability to grasp what truly means to be a good leader, and his refusal to face the consequences of what he's done make this moment utterly laughable. And yet, during the fight against the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, the most critical moment of the war, Sasuke has the chance for redemption, at least to some degree. Team 7 reunites, playing a huge role in ending the war. At this point, the logical next step should be simple: work together to rebuild the shinobi world. But obviously, things cannot be that simple. Sasuke decides to challenge Naruto yet again, this time over different ideologies about how to rebuild the world. Sasuke believes in leading a revolution, convinced that he alone can maintain peace, dismissing the other Kage as failures. Naruto, in contrast, offers the more reasonable, grounded, and ultimately correct perspective. The world needs reform, but it requires collective effort and cooperation with the other Kage, not radical and inconsequential change. The final battle between Naruto and Sasuke, while visually spectacular, feels purposeless. Unlike the first fight of Naruto and Sasuke, or Hashirama against Madara, where real stakes were on the line, this clash lacks meaningful consequences, beyond both of them losing an arm. The world has already been saved, and they could have easily worked together from that point forward. Instead, it feels like an unnecessary extension of a conflict that had already run its course. Sasuke's characterization suffers from a fundamental inconsistency. He's written as a complex character in moments that demand simplicity, and as a simplistic, almost idiotic character in moments that require depth. This lack of coherent development frustrates the audience and makes him harder to sympathize with. At the end of the day, Sasuke possesses some of the coolest abilities in the anime, but his personality and decisions often render him insufferably annoying and obnoxious. Of course, if you love Sasuke, first of all, nice to meet you, and secondly, you have every right to. But it's also easy to see why so many people can't stand him. If you like analysis like this, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support creators you like, and it's always highly appreciated. There's also another video on your screen right now that I'm sure you will enjoy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.